last year we got to see glimpses of the old John Wall. You know, he still averaged 20 and 7 last year. And I get it, he only shot 40%, but he never really got a good rhythm because of the way that Houston was load managing him. He's still in his prime. And I think in the right situation, around the right coach that's going to put him in position to be successful, and he get the right bodies around him, I still think John Wall can help somebody. I could see John Wall going to, like, you know, the Clippers or even maybe Philly. I don't know what's going on with the Ben Simmons situation, but I think John Wall in Philly with Joel Embiid is better than Ben Simmons in Philly with Joel Embiid, because John Wall are actually going to take those shots and be aggressive. John Wall is not going to be afraid to go to the free throw line. So, you know, I know his contract, he's due almost $100 million over the next 2 years, but, you know, at the end of the day, I still think he has something to offer to a contender team.
All right, so this is going to be pretty ironic and honestly a little cute and very, very dramatic. So really importantly, guys, I have been banned on Twitch for about a year now, and I'm launching a campaign on Twitter. There's a tweet that if you retweet and like, and if you happen to follow me, then if my Twitch gets unbanned, I will be giving 5 people $500 just for liking and retweeting that tweet, just to get Twitch's attention, because that was my main means of doing chats with you guys. I'm gonna leave a link to that in the description down below. And on top of that, I'm running a NBA 2K22 giveaway on my Instagram page, and if you have NBA 2K22, we're also giving away VC there instead. Now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? So the last time I made a video on this Ben Simmons situation, we were stuck at this very uncomfortable impasse. You see, Ben Simmons wants to be traded from the Philadelphia 76ers. He feels betrayed about what they did to him during the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Atlanta Hawks. He feels like they should have stuck up for him despite him having a really bad showing and despite him stagnating over the past entirety of his career. So that's where he feels betrayed, and meanwhile, the Philadelphia 76ers just want Ben Simmons to do more. Honestly, he hasn't developed at all. He hasn't held himself accountable. He kind of comes off as a little bratty. As a result, this marriage might be coming to an end. Now, here's where things get a little dicey. It's gone so far that Rich Paul came out and said that Ben Simmons will not report to camp. And meanwhile, the Philadelphia 76ers came out and said, okay, well, if Ben Simmons doesn't report to camp, we're going to just start finding him each and every day. And that brings us to where we are today. Now, currently, Ben Simmons, well, as of today, he is still not expected to report to training camp with the Philadelphia 76ers next week. Now, the Sixers, however, remain intent on trying to convince Ben Simmons to report to camp. Both the 76ers and Ben Simmons have sought a trade during this offseason, but nothing has materialized just yet because, well, most of the teams that want to trade for Ben Simmons aren't giving the Philadelphia 76ers what their asking price is for Ben Simmons. And honestly, I can't really blame them. We've talked about in the past how the Philadelphia 76ers approached the Golden State Warriors, asked for 2 lottery picks, 2 future first round picks, James Wiseman and Andrew Wiggins. That's way too much for a player that has stagnated during his entire career and is clearly taken a tumble in terms of his overall value. But then you have other instances where before the NBA draft, they approached the Toronto Raptors. They asked for the number 4 pick. They asked for Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, and OG Anunoby, and of course, once again, the Raptors said no. They rejected a potential trade from the Indiana Pacers that included Malcolm Brogdon and a first-round pick, and currently, Ben Simmons is in a situation where he's so miserable with the Philadelphia 76ers that he'd be willing to play for the Sacramento Kings, or he'd be willing to play for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, here's where things get interesting. If you remember a while ago, well, actually, one of the last videos I made this past week is the Houston Rockets and John Wall are are coming together and both agree that they need to go their separate ways. John Wall doesn't fit the timeline of this young Houston Rockets team that just spent a number 2 overall pick on Jalen Green, that has Christian Wood currently developing, and that wants to build around Kevin Porter Jr. John Wall could potentially take their development out of rhythm, I guess, and, well, doesn't fit the trajectory of this team. At the same time, I'd imagine that John Wall wants a situation where he could at least be competitive and won't want to be on a rebuilding team. Remember when John Wall got traded to the Houston Rockets at the time, he thought he was going to go play with DeMarcus Cousins, which, yes, he tore his Achilles and was a shell of his former self, but DeMarcus Cousins, Christian Wood, James Harden seemed like a sweet situation. James Harden gets traded a mere few weeks later. John Wall clearly didn't sign up for the situation, and the Houston Rockets ever since then launched into a full-scale rebuild. Now, this is where things get really funny. If you remember, when James Harden was on the trade block, originally, one of the players that were offered for James Harden was Ben Simmons. And this is why I keep saying this is so funny to me. The trade offer of Ben Simmons, which, yes, I know now we're laughing at, but Ben Simmons and the assets that came with Ben Simmons was rejected. Now, there are multiple reports as to why the Houston Rockets rejected the trade of Ben Simmons. Some say they wanted additional draft capital. Others say they wanted younger players. They did end up forwarding the player that they received, Karis LeVert, to the Indiana Pacers, and as a result, well, the return they ended up getting for him wasn't the best. At one point, they did end up getting Victor Oladipo as a result of it, but then they traded Victor Oladipo to the Miami Heat. Victor Oladipo also had an injury-riddled season, and of course, currently, and we don't talk about this enough, if you thought Dennis Schroeder had a bad situation where he rejected an $84 million contract and ended up taking a $5.6 million contract with the Boston Celtics instead, Victor Oladipo had it way worse. You see, Oladipo rejected $112 million from the Indiana Pacers earlier this year, and then rejected $45.2 million over 2 years from the Houston Rockets and elected to sign a veteran minimum with the Miami Heat. Now, if you've been following this channel for a while, you'd know that I've been predicting Victor Oladipo to the Miami Heat for about 2 years. I've said it's like something that will happen once he hits free agency. No matter what, you can take to the bank, Victor Oladipo is going to be a member of the Miami Heat. I just didn't know he wanted to be a member of the Miami Heat this badly. Now, going back to what we were talking about in regards to the James Harden trade return, at the end of the day, the Houston Rockets, at least in terms of value, got back Dante Exum, Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk, DJ Augustine, and DJ Wilson. And currently, they have Avery Bradley, Dante Exum, and DJ Augustine from that return, in addition to 3 late first-round draft picks that are the Brooklyn Nets, which are supposed to come sooner rather than later when the Brooklyn Nets are still in contention. Now, the reason I'm bringing this trade up is there's a report that the Houston Rockets, according to my man Evan Damerel, which I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really know how credible of a source this is. The only reason I'm bringing him up is because I've been seeing this take everywhere on NBA Twitter. Hell, you see Kendrick Perkins saying nonsense like this.
But I think John Wall in Philly with Joel Embiid is better than Ben Simmons in Philly with Joel Embiid.
So it seems like a foregone conclusion that at some point or another, the Philadelphia 76ers are going to try to trade for John Wall. And you can even see Evan Damerel saying over here that after talking to some folks over the weekend, it seems like the Houston Rockets are seriously interested in acquiring 76ers forward Ben Simmons prior to the start of training camp. Things remain fluid, but John Wall would be headed to Philadelphia in a possible trade per sources. Now, here's the thing, and this is something that we never typically account for. What if, once again, because if you remember, there's this rumor, and I don't even know how true this is, that Tillman Fertitta didn't want to trade James Harden back to Daryl Morey. There's a rumor out there that suggests that. I don't know how true it is. I'm sure there's more depth to it, but let's just assume that in the NBA, general managers and owners of franchises are actually this petty. Well, in this same situation, what makes you think that if this was true, the 76ers and Daryl Morey would say, yeah, you know, we offered Ben Simmons for James Harden. You guys rejected it, but hey, take Ben Simmons for John Wall. I don't really care. Go for it. What are the odds that happens? You see, I think a trade like this is possible, but given the past and how this has been going so far for both teams, I can't imagine Daryl Morey approaching the Houston Rockets and saying, hey, just give me John Wall for Ben Simmons even swap, especially when he approached other teams like, say, the Golden State Warriors, like we used earlier in this video as an example, asking for Andrew Wiggins, 2 lottery picks, 2 future first-round picks, and James Wiseman. There's no way he's about to downgrade his trade offer that much, especially when he could go and get Malcolm Brogdon, especially if he can go and hit up the Minnesota Timberwolves and get D'Angelo Russell. Now, that's not to say D'Angelo Russell's better than John Wall or John Wall's better than D'Angelo Russell, but personally, if you're asking me, if I had to choose between a young D'Angelo Russell that has yet to hit his prime, that isn't coming off of a torn Achilles, which to John Wall's credit, he's looked good post-Achilles tear, but one has to ponder how much longevity he has left. If you ask me, I would rather trade Ben Simmons to the Minnesota Timberwolves for D'Angelo Russell instead of to the Houston Rockets for John Wall. Especially if you think about it, these two teams, they're forever going to be linked. The Houston Rockets once employed Daryl Morey. Things didn't end well over there, supposedly. If you remember when Daryl Morey was in Houston, they had him working with a severely limited salary cap, which is why James Harden was primarily surrounded by one other superstar co-star and usually a bunch of players on very small contracts, especially once they traded Clint Capella. So at the end of the day, do I think this is reasonable? Do I think the Philadelphia 76ers are going to trade for John Wall? Well, yes, I think it's possible, but I don't think it's going to be done by directly sending Ben Simmons to the Houston Rockets. And the flip side, do I think the Houston Rockets should trade for Ben Simmons? Well, most definitely. If you have a player like Jalen Green, who is known for his remarkable scoring ability, you have Christian Wood, who is a phenomenal developing power forward. You have Kevin Porter Jr., who also has shown, at least at times, okay, he had one 50-point game, okay, he had one 50-point game, but still, if you have a player that is notorious for creating for his teammates, that could come in handy. But the problem with Ben Simmons will forever be the fact that he will shrink the floor on whatever team he'll be on. On the flip side, it might be good for the Houston Rockets to add some defense. Whatever team adds Ben Simmons will get a boost to their defense at least a little bit. Maybe some of that rubs off on the young players, who knows? So in my opinion, do I think this is going to happen? Maybe. Not really directly John Wall for Ben Simmons, but I can see John Wall going to the Sixers, and if they offer a decent amount of capital in addition to that, maybe Ben Simmons will be traded back to the Houston Rockets. But that's what I think about this situation, guys. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about all this, and make sure you enter our giveaway to get me unbanned from Twitch, man. I miss talking to you guys on Twitch and chilling with you guys on chat. Make sure you guys enter the NBA 2K22 giveaway /VC giveaway on my Instagram at TheFlightMike. I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.